Everybody can see my screen?
I can see your screen, yes.
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Greg Nacu, and I live in Canada. I have a long history of love for both the C64 and for operating systems. In late 2016, I decided to get back into my C64 after an 8-year hiatus, and I started learning to program in 6502. I had ideas for an OS, and I decided to call it C64 OS. I set up a website, c64os.com, and I've been blogging about my progress for a few years. I'm quite far along, and I was invited to give you all a demonstration, so here we are. So we'll start by booting up. This instance of C64 OS is installed on an SD to IEC. It runs on a stock C64, but requires a boot storage device with native support for subdirectories. So this includes the CMD devices, IDE 64, and SD to IEC. So we're taken first to the app launcher. The app launcher is a desktop-like environment with configurable background image and customizable aliases. These are links to other applications, C64 OS utilities, and also to regular C64 programs. So the app launcher supports 5 configurable desktops and up to 32 aliases per desktop. Aliases can be rearranged simply by dragging them like this. And also you can drag selection boxes around groups of aliases. So you can drag a bunch of them at the same time. And you can also change the colors of aliases by using the standard color picker. So we can select some aliases, pick a new color, like so. So I'm going to just reload state the way they were before. So the menu bar that runs along the top of the screen here and the status bar that runs along the bottom of the screen are common to all applications. Menus are really fast. They're hierarchical like this, and they support customizable keyboard shortcuts. The status bar has different modes that you can switch through with a click. So this current mode is showing the application's custom content. So in this application, as we make selections, it's showing you how many aliases are selected, and it can show other custom messages. With a click, this is now showing us the latest drive status. So device 12 is the SD to IEC, and this is its latest drive status. On the other end of the status bar, we have a display of the currently available memory. So there's 20 kilobytes of memory available right now. The next mode of the status bar shows the currently open or selected file. So if I click on these files, this is these aliases, this is showing the path in the file system of where that alias is located. In the menu bar on the far left end, we have a utilities menu. So these main menus here are, they change per application, but the contents of the utilities menu stays the same from application to application. So I will choose the About This App utility. So here we have a utility which we can move about. So this shows us the version number, the copyright information, and the application icon for whatever application is currently running. So this is showing us the app launchers. Next, I'll open the settings utility. So the settings utility basically gives you access to other utilities that are all geared towards customizing the settings of the operating system. First of all, I'll say a couple things about utilities generally. When a utility is open, the application in the background is still totally active. So these menus are active. We can click on content, and basically everything that you can do in the app, you can do in the app while a utility is open. Additionally, utilities support window shade. So if you hold the control key and click on the title bar, you can collapse a utility into its title bar just so that you can conveniently see what's going on behind it. So I'll use the settings utility to open the themes utility. The themes utility lets you change the color theme or to customize your own color theme. So with this button down here, we can toggle through the color themes. There are 2 built-in themes, daylight and midnight. So midnight's kind of a cool dark theme. And then you have this custom theme. So you can click on any of these user interface elements to select it, and then you can click on this button here to cycle through changing the color of oops, sorry. That was the background color. So you can customize all of the various user interface elements. So I'll just go back to the daylight theme. Now, in the app launcher, I'm going to switch desktops to, say, desktop 2. Okay, so here we can see that the background image is completely different. There's a different arrangement of aliases with different colors, just to show you that you can really like customize your desktops to suit your needs. Now we'll switch to, say, desktop 5. So here again, you can see a totally different background image, different color, different layout of aliases, and so on. Now, of course, the app launcher is meant to let you launch into apps. So I'm going to double click on the gallery app. So when an app is launched, you see this standard splash screen, that standard splash screen that you saw. So every time you switch an app, you see like that splash screen. So now this is a totally new app, new user interface. These menus here, these main menus are all different, but the contents of the utilities menu is still the same. So I'm going to now click on, say, this wallpapers gallery to open it. So we got some metadata filled in here. But you also notice that once I've opened this gallery, there's this new status icon here, a little up arrow in the status bar. So that icon indicates that you can drag the status bar. So we can drag the status bar up to activate a split screen. So split screen is a feature that's built into the operating system that applications can tap into. And both halves of the screen are active, so we can interact with the menus and the application buttons in the top. And we can also interact with the content at the bottom. So I'm going to click down here to, say, switch the image. Now, we can also use a keyboard shortcut to switch into full screen graphics mode. And then I'll click to cycle to the next image. So we can switch back to split screen. Let me show another image. Switch back to split screen. So next, I'm going to choose options go home. That's going to take me back to the app launcher. See that splash screen again. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out about the returning to the app launcher is that I'm taken back to the desktop that I left from, because apps remember their state when you leave them. So from the app launcher now, I could launch into, say, another app. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into the file manager. So file manager and the app launcher are kind of like built-in apps. And so there are quick ways to switch between them. So from the Go menu, we can choose File Manager, or it has a keyboard shortcut. So File Manager showcases an advanced user interface that is built from C64 OS's object-oriented toolkit. First, we have this vertical split. So we can click anywhere on this bar and drag it left and right to resize the halves of the screen. And you can see that the user interface is responding in real time to the new size. So I have, for example, this horizontal scroll bar to scroll the content horizontally. And then we also have these tabs up here that have contracted to better fit the space that's available. So I'll just make this a little wider. Yeah, so there are these 4 tabs allowing you to be in a different place, a different device, partition, and directory, 4 different places at the same time. So then you have the actual list of files. So the list of files is displayed in a table which has resizable and sortable column headers. So I can just click on the column header like this to resize a column. I can resize this column. And you can click on these column headers to sort by the various criteria, sort alphabetically by file name, ascending and descending. To switch into to change a directory, you can just double click on a directory. So here we are in a new directory. Now you also see this path bar up here, and down here you have this this kind of info bar. So those can be turned on and off. So we could say view path bar and view info bar, and you see the UI adapts to fill the available space. Those also have keyboard shortcuts, so I can bring those back with some keyboard shortcuts. Now the path bar, not only does it show you where you are, but you can also interact with it to jump back to places in the path. So I'll go back up a directory. This here that we're looking at is actually the system directory. So you can kind of see a bit of the organization. For example, the desktop, drivers, kernel, library, settings, etc. And you can make selections. So we can select, we can make range selections like this. We can make individual selections. And I'm making those selections by clicking on things while holding the Shift key and the Commodore key. So I wanted to show you just a little example of sort of a file management task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the file manager to make a backup of the app launcher's desktop directories. So I will start by going to tab 3. And then I'm going to navigate the file system. So I'll click on my SD2IC device and I see a list of partitions, and I'll click on partition. I have a backups folder. So I'll go into that, and I have a desktop directory, so I'll go into that. Now what I'll do is I'll go back to tab 2, and I'll go into the desktop directory. Now I'll use multiple selections to select each of these desktop directories. And now I'll go File, Copy to tab 3. So that opens this copy utility. So you could cancel the copy by closing the utility, or you can confirm by clicking Start. So I'll hit Start. And so now this is recursively copying all of the selected directories and all of their contents to wherever tab 3 is. You see this cool little icon of a file moving between the folders. You get a count of how many items have been copied so far. And if this was copying between devices, it will use the REU to accelerate disk file copying. Okay, so that's done. So now when we go back to tab 3, we can see that indeed each of those directories has been copied, and we have a backup of the desktop aliases. So that is just kind of an example of some file management tasks that you can do with the C64 OS file manager. Now, I don't have a lot of time, so I thought that I would just give an example of some useful utilities that are in C64 OS. So if you double click, you can do this at any time, you can double click the available memory in the status bar, and you get this memory utility. So the memory utility shows a real-time visual display of how memory in the C64 is currently allocated. This also shows that a 2 megabyte REU has been detected. We have 19 kilobytes of memory have been used by this application, and 11 kilobytes are available. You can also, at any time, double-click the time in the menu bar. And that opens this calendar. It's called the Today utility. It's kind of a calendar program. So it's kind of a work in progress, but you can cycle through the months and years. You can click on individual dates. And the idea will be that I'll let you add notes to each individual date. And lastly, from the utilities menu, I'll open, say, the calculator. So calculator, just as you would imagine, we can do some calculations here. And we can open this above whatever application is going on below. And another kind of cool thing about this calculator is that it's for all of its floating point math, it's actually using the basic ROM in the computer. So that's pretty much the demo that I wanted to give. And I wanted to leave some time for questions. So you can find out more about all this at c64os.com, where I am very busy right now working on the user's guide. And then after that, I'm going to be working on a programmer's guide to document all the APIs for third-party developers. And yeah, so we can just, do you want me to open the floor for questions?
Yeah, maybe first question for me. Are you developing that all but by yourself alone?
Yes, so far, yeah, everything's been developed by me. I've got some beta testers. I've been running a beta program for about a year, maybe a little over a year. So I've got some people who are helping me test.
It's good. I see some comments here. Excellent work. Are there any questions for Greg?
Yeah, I have a question. I would like to know how you manage the back and forth from application where I mean, the memory is not too large to store everything, stack, and other stuff like that, you know, from jumping to an application to another. So if you change it to desktop, from desktop 2, for example, to desktop 1, when you leave the desktop 1 to desktop 2, where do you store the information, the stack, the RAM area for the previous application, so you can go back in the same memory layout you are living and back and forth, you know?
Yeah, so C64 OS is not properly multitasking because in my opinion, there's just not enough memory to do like full proper memory multitasking and really give enough memory left over for applications to do interesting things. So in the case of the desktops, it saves the current state of the desktop to the storage device when you leave a desktop, and it loads in the state of the next desktop when you switch. The file manager is actually a little bit more advanced than that. When you load in directories into tabs, the contents of the directories remain loaded into memory only as long as there's enough memory. So it remembers like the order of which tabs you accessed. And if it runs in a memory when it's trying to load in a directory, it'll automatically deallocate the last, like the tab that you've used least frequently. And then if you switch back to a tab, it will, it just automatically reloads that content in. So it does a lot of writing state out to disk so that when you come back to it, it loads the state back in from disk and it feels like you've picked up right where you left off.
So if I may follow up with a question to that. So how is memory management then done? Is this all loaded to fixed addresses, or are you doing some kind of relocating with all these swapping out and back in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there's a combination of some things are loaded to fixed memory addresses, some are not. So applications load to a fixed address. Utilities load to a fixed address way up high in memory, but there is a dynamic memory manager for everything else. So drivers relocate, so they can be dynamically loaded and unloaded, and they get relocated to wherever there's space. Libraries, there's a shared library system that is relocated. Toolkit widget classes, there's a core set that are built in, but then you can also make additional ones that get loaded in that only get used for certain applications. They get relocated. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of a—
Yeah, thank you. Wow. Are you using your own relocatable format, or?
Yeah, actually, I wrote a blog post about how I'm doing the relocation, but yeah,
I read it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I came up with my own mechanism for relocating 6502 code. It's limited. It's limited to up to about 2 kilobytes. So you can't relocate like a 30K chunk of memory using my technique, but it's very, very lightweight and doesn't require a special assembler. So I like it.
I see a question from Michel. Is there any networking support like TCP/IP, etc.?
Yeah, so there isn't networking yet, but I have many plans, and so support for things like the RU and support for networking are in progress.
Okay. Then I see, when can we expect to test it? So you said you have
that's
some
the
beta available, but when do you
Yes.
release something?
Everybody wants to know that, and yeah, I apologize if my development is a bit slow because, but actually I do all my development on a Commodore itself, so that's kind of bonus points for me. But it does make development a little bit slow. I just I want to release as soon as I think that it's useful. I don't want to just wait forever, but I don't want to release it when it's not useful. But it's pretty close, because at this point there's a lot of things that I can do with it that are already very useful for me. But you can also see that there are just things that are not done, like this favorites section here is I just haven't finished that part yet. So
so you're developing this, you said, on a Commodore, but you need then a RAM expansion unit or something, right?
I do the development on a Commodore 128, and I do use an REU for development. And the system will use an REU if you have one, but you don't need an REU to actually run C64 OS.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are other questions. I don't think so. Otherwise, if questions arise, you can of course always ask them in the. Yes, please. Yes, go for it.
So I suppose you're not using the kernel at all. So your system can run without any kind of ROM.
It can run with any kind of ROM. Actually, it does use the kernel.
For what?
Yes. C64 OS actually uses the C64 kernel. And it even uses the basic ROM occasionally for certain routines that are in the basic ROM, like the way the calculator patches the basic ROM in to do that. So yeah, it uses the kernel. It uses the real kernel. That's actually a good question, because I don't have custom disk access routines. So a speed loader is like highly recommended. I personally recommend Jiffy DOS, which is like a full kernel replacement, and makes the disk access much faster. But yeah, I'm using the kernel ROM.
Good. Thank you. I will stop recording this talk now. You want to stop, Claude?